Hey, and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. This is Chad from Ascension Worship. This week I thought it'd be fun to explore my backpack. And for you guys who are aspiring freelance audio engineers, I want to show you some things that I think are really useful to keep on you, things that I get a lot of use out of myself. So let's hop straight into it. First off is the backpack itself. This is some weird off-brand backpack I got on Amazon, but it had really great reviews and it was physically larger than the backpack I had before. It's awesome. It's got a ton of different pockets and areas to store things on it. And it's really durable. If you've ever seen me in public, I have a lot of stuff in my backpack. And so far this has held up really well. The only thing I really don't like about it is that it is really kind of limp when there's not stuff in it, especially things like a laptop or a tablet. So the way I fixed that was I went on Amazon and just got this clipboard, and the clipboard had terrible ratings, but it was perfect for what I needed, because one of the things that the clipboard is bad at is that the metal parts ripped off immediately, but I actually wanted that because I just keep this in there as a divider, and then it gives some rigidity to the backpack when it's not being used. So I find that really helpful. Now inside the bag, and all these links are going to be in the description, you can go on Amazon and buy, they call them kids backpacks with the little drawstrings on the back. You can get like 12 of these for, I think it's less than 20 bucks. And what's great about these is also really good for portable churches, is that you can color code and store different things inside, a larger container. So in this case, I've got this one kind of catch-all area on my bag, and inside of it, I have different miniature bags that keep some of the things that are of higher priority. So the first few things I'll talk about today are the things I use the most, and they go in this neon green bag because it's easiest to see even if you're in a dark room. And so that works really, really well. So let's talk about what I keep in the green bag. Well, actually, first off, I take a laptop with me in case we need to do any kind of multi-track recording or anything like that. But in today's day and age, I always have two tablets with me. The first one is an Amazon Fire tablet. These are only like $50. And a lot of the mixing apps like Mixing Station will work on this. And it's small enough, this was a 7-inch model, that you can fit it in your back pocket. And so that's a really, really good thing to keep around with you for portability. The bigger one is an old iPad Air. It's like the original Air version. They don't even make firmware for this guy anymore. But some different music playing apps still work on it. Netflix still works on it. So this is like my media device. And what I like about it is I always have some sort of playlist playing in a endless loop from this device plugged into my console. This is especially good if you do weddings. Something happens and they need to delay the wedding. All of a sudden, having a good generic playlist that you can just fade in subtly will change the atmosphere in the room when something's tense. So having that and then having it always plugged in is great. You don't want to use your phone for that because you're going to need your phone, for phone things at some point. So that's what I use this guy for. Now, to plug that in, I always keep with me two of these guys. You can see they're well worn. These are headphone to dual TS cables, so I can plug in my iPad. And the reason why I keep two of them, one is for the iPad. It's a short one. I've got a longer one that can go to a computer for ProPresenter or any kind of presentation software like that. There will be occasions when you're on maybe like a Yamaha LS9 where you don't have 1/4-inch inputs. So having a direct box and XLR cable, short XLR cable on you is a good idea. This one has been to some places. It has literally been around the world with me for about 10 years. And it's kind of gross because I've marked it with different tapes so that people know it's mine. I think it's pretty obvious now. But this is a Livewire SPDI. This is the Guitar Center house brand. It's awesome. It's only like $32, mono DI. It's lasted me 10 years and it's still going strong. So I love that. And of course, anytime you have tablets, if you're working for a long day and things start to die on you, having a battery backup is a great idea. This is an Anker model, and I don't know the size and specs on it. Someone gave it to me, but this works really, really well for when your tablet is starting to die. Has a big charge on it. Okay, a few other things that I use all the time that are in my green bag. First off is going to be a pair of headphones. And so I use the Sennheiser HD280s. These are great. They're not super expensive for what they are. They're $100. But the big thing about them is, one, they fold up. So when it comes to storage, that's a big deal. Also, I like to hold them like this and have one cup up to my ears when I'm working with them. So that folding option is really good. They fold up, they're sturdy, they sound great, they isolate really well, so you're not gonna have a lot of bleed going on when you're using them. If you have to mix like a stream mix or something, this is a great option to go with. Now, more and more, I'm having to diagnose people's in-ear issues, and I don't really like to carry around the headphones when I'm doing that. So, as I've mentioned in previous videos, lately I've been using these. Let's see if my camera will focus. This is the CCA C10. These are about $40. They're really great for the money, and I just kind of keep them around my ears all the time. Now, the problem with using these with a console is that the cable isn't very long compared to the HD280s, which have, I think, about a 10-foot cable. There's only about I think a 3-foot cable on the in-ears. So to alleviate that, if I'm going to plug into a console, I've been carrying this guy around with me. This is just a Hosa headphone extension cable where we've got a 1/4 inch on one end and an 1/8 inch on the other. And that is super duper helpful so that you don't rip your ears off or pull the desk off the table when you go walking away from it. Cool, let's see, what else do we have here? Those are the things I use like the most often, but some other things that are really important to have. If you're visiting somewhere and they don't have a talkback mic, talkback mic is an incredibly useful tool when it comes to communicating with the band and saying things in a way that might sound aggressive if you're yelling them across the room. They sound a lot better and more pleasing when you're whispering them into the band's ears. That sounds kind of creepy, but I'm going to go with it. Now, I have like a proper handheld vocal mic, but good mics are heavy. And so one thing I've been carrying around for about 10 years now is this guy. This is the Sennheiser E609. This is a guitar microphone. But the cool thing about this is obviously you can use it on guitar. It actually sounds surprisingly good on cello if you're having a hard time getting cello to cut through the mix. But the other good thing is there have been a lot of times where I've used it as a talkback microphone. I just use that short XLR that I have, and it's lightweight. It's really fun to hold in your hand and pretend like you're a rock star. It is a super cardioid, meaning that it's very tight, so you're not going to get a whole ton of ambient bleed when you go to use the microphone. The only downside to it is that it doesn't have a lot of padding in it because it's not made to be used as a vocal microphone. So explosives, P's and B's will pop the microphone pretty bad. And so if it's annoying to the people on stage, you can simply hold the microphone kind of off to the side so it's not getting the direct blast of air. And these are great. But any kind of microphone you can keep with you. If you're on an X32, I highly suggest that you do not use the built-in microphone on the board. Instead, turn on external microphone and use something like this. Those microphones are really made for studio usage, and they pick up a very wide signal. They're probably omnidirectional. So when you're in the back of the room and the band's pumping and you turn that on to talk to people, you're getting a lot of ambient bleed and ruining everyone's in-ear mixes. Whereas using something like this is going to be a lot less of a bother to the band when you go to use the microphone. So highly recommend. Some tools and things that I use all the time. Electrical tape, always a good thing to have on you for wrapping cables or what have you. I don't use these a ton. Well, I get pretty good use out of this is just a ratcheting screwdriver from Harbor Freight. This is like $8. Inside the cap, you have, if it'll focus, you got a bunch of different bits. You know, some things like someone's bass, you know, needs a new battery, happens all the time. It's just good to have a screwdriver on you. A pair of vice grips is another useful thing to have with you. This is a great thing, is having USB sticks and multiple USB sticks. For me, I use this guy the most for recording and for saving scenes. Now, this is not a typical USB stick. It is actually an SD card adapter. Now, the reason why I like that is obviously if I need to record something onto an SD card or transfer files, I can do that. But also, USB sticks are generally not regulated. So you might get one as a promotional thing and not realize that it's really not a very great product. Whereas SD cards have to go through a process of regulation. And so if you get something like a Class 10 SD card, you're going to be able to get recordings where you're not getting missing samples and things like that, which I've had happen with cheaper USB sticks. So I like that. It is bulky, but it's functional. This is an old USB stick. I don't use this for recording, but this guy is just for anything Allen and Heath. Allen Heath is really annoying in the fact that they make you use a dedicated USB drive. I don't like that, so I have to deal with it. There we go. There's a stick for that. If you, again, I keep a laptop with me. If you are ever in the position of needing to do a multi-track recording, USB cables and Ethernet cables are always a good thing to keep in your bag. Another really useful thing, especially if you're at church with analog, you know, snake or stage boxes, is having some gender changing cables. So we got a male to male and a female to female. This is really useful if you're moving people around on stage and maybe want to turn a connection that's made to be an input into an output and have an in-ear mix or something coming out of that. Just having these around is great. Now you can buy these online. I made these. When you buy them online, typically they come as two connectors that are basically welded together. So like a solid long piece of metal. I hate having that coming out of a console because I feel like someone's going to bump into it and break parts of the console. Same thing with coming out of a stage box. So that's why I made these. If you're handy with a soldering iron, you can make these for cheap, and then you don't have to be quite as worried about that. We're going to finish up with this. Not as often anymore, but if you are working on an analog console, having some sort of white tape, console tape that you can write on, a marker and a pen, of course, is a useful thing to keep with you. And of course, having some sort of label maker is a great idea. This one is pretty bulky, and it fortunately or unfortunately just died recently. So I've noticed that the new ones are a lot smaller. They're probably about this big, and they are Bluetooth compatible, so you can control them with an app from your phone. So I'm actually looking forward to replacing this guy soon. But that's it. Those are the things that I keep on me all the time and use a shocking amount. Some things that didn't quite make the list that I keep in my car. It's always good to have a soldering iron with you. I always have, believe it or not, at least 150 feet of Cat 5. You would be surprised at how often that has become useful. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I'd love to see what it is that you're carrying around with you. I know a lot of guys have Pelican cases. I went with the backpack route. Please feel free to leave your comments below in YouTube, and I'd love to see what you got. Until next time, have a great week. Again, this is Chad from Ascension Worship. I hope this has been helpful for you and your team. Come back here every Tuesday for new information.